Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ann Logan, and this is the I'veReadThis.com YouTube channel. I am recording this on Mother's Day, and the house is empty and silent because my husband took the kids out, and it's a lovely little break from what it's been the past few months, which is very loud and full of people all the time. So I hope you guys are having a nice quiet time. It's probably not Mother's Day while you're watching this, but happy Mother's Day to all those moms out there. So I'm going to be talking about two different books today. First, very briefly, I wanted to talk about this one. Not One of These Poems is About You by Teva Harrison. And this isn't the actual book. I just received a sampler from House of Anansi. But the poems that are included in this are absolutely beautiful, as are the little pictures that Teva's included. She does kind of like little drawings. It sort of reminded me of Rupi Kaur's poetry, because she does little drawings to accompany some of her poems as well. For those who don't know, Teva passed away last year in 2019, and she died of terminal breast cancer, which she was diagnosed with a few years ago. And she wrote a graphic memoir all about that experience and what it's like to know that you're going to be dying in a few years. And this book of poetry sort of continues along that theme, saying goodbye to the ones you love, that sort of thing. This book was released posthumously earlier in 2020. And the reason why I thought it would be nice to mention this book is because I've noticed this trend that during the pandemic, we all seem to be just trying to get through the days, and people are sleeping longer, and just, all the days seem to be blending together, and we all just need to kind of get through this and get through these days. And I totally understand that sentiment, and I don't blame people for feeling that way. But reading poetry like this, like Teva's, does remind us that each day is really precious too, and wishing them away is kind of a double-edged sword, I suppose. And we should be so grateful for each and every day, especially if we have our health. So I thought her book was just a nice reminder, something to read right now while we're all stuck at home. So the book I want to talk about and focus on today is this: 2019 Best Canadian Essays, edited by Emily Donaldson. This book was sent to me by Biblioasis, and they also have a few other books in the same series, 2019 Best Canadian Short Stories, which I haven't read yet, and they also have a poetry anthology. So this book is edited by Emily Donaldson, who, if you read lots of book reviews in Canada, you will recognize that name. She's a well-known critic. She's also the editor of CNQ, Canadian Notes and Queries, which is a very literary CanLit magazine. So I realize that probably a lot of people who aren't familiar with and obsessed with Canadian publishing the way I am may know these names and things that I'm throwing out, but just know that she's very highly regarded. And there are 20 essays in this book. They are all chosen from magazines and a few literary journals. And that's why I want to talk about it, because these kinds of books don't get a lot of commercial attention or acclaim. But really, especially a book of essays, I think has really wide appeal, especially to those who don't actually read a lot of books, because it's essentially just an amalgamation of really long magazine articles. And for those who love magazines, this is the perfect book for you. There's a whole range of topics. Some of my favorite essays were about, and it seems weird to say this is a favorite essay of mine, but there's an essay about the murders in Toronto's gay village, about that particular serial murderer that they had. There's a really good essay about these terrorist attacks in Beirut in the 1980s. There's a really lovely essay by Melanie Ma, who basically just talks about this visit that her parents flew out and visited her while she was in Toronto, and she took them to a bunch of different restaurants. And so there's some essays told from just like a personal perspective, this is what my life is like, and there's some really heavily researched essays. There is one really interesting one about like George Bush's speechwriter and his thoughts on torture versus what he actually did around like Guantanamo Bay policy, like really like a huge range of topics. And because there's such a huge range, you know, there was essays I didn't really like there was one about Canadian history, which I found super boring. But that's inevitable if you're going to be reading an anthology of essays. So what I think this book would be really great for is if you lived with a bunch of people, buy this book, read the essays that interest you, and then pass it on to someone else, because I'm sure they will find something that they really enjoyed that you didn't, and everyone will get a good read out of this, regardless of where your interests lie. So yeah, that's why I recommend this book, because it may be something that you don't think you would be interested in, but when you start reading it, it's actually really, really fascinating. And you know that all the writing is going to be good because it's been chosen specifically for that reason. That's the only thing that's basically tying all the essays together. It's just good writing. I will say that the level of writing it's not academic, but it's definitely elevated. So there's some pretty complicated subjects, and you really got to keep an open mind when you're reading. Personally, it's like I would read a couple sentences and think, I have no idea what this means. Doesn't matter, keep reading. That probably surprises some people to think that I read stuff that I still don't understand and just keep reading anyways. Everyone does it. No one likes to admit it, but it's true. So don't let that hold you back from picking up a book like this. Yeah, so I think that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I hope you're getting some good reading in during all this home time, and check out I'veReadThis.com for my latest reviews, and I'll include my other social media channels below. Bye, thanks for watching.